Making a game realistic can either greatly improve a player's experience, or it could suck ass. For example, some of you are masochists. Subscribe, by the way. In my Yakuza 3 Remastered video, some people thought that the combat felt infuriating, whereas others didn't, and some even said it felt more realistic. If Yakuza wasn't a series where you smash people in the face with a sledgehammer for 600 yen and a bag of Smarties, or where you punched a bloody tiger, I'd probably say that realistic gameplay had some place in the series. Regardless of what you think, it does make you wonder, can realism hurt gameplay? When a game tries to mix realistic and unrealistic game mechanics, it has the potential to lead to that feeling of unfairness when those gameplay mechanics begin to clash or contradict each other, leading to it feeling a bit off. I've coined this Frictional Ludorealism. Balancing realistic and gamified mechanics is really difficult because they directly oppose each other, and in some cases the shift between the two is so jarring that it just doesn't feel like it's part of the same game. Some developers even find themselves gamifying realistic game mechanics because they simply feel better in a gameplay setting. Games that are opposed to this idea have what I like to call high ludorigidity, stubbornness of a game to stick to the intended game design, even if the flexibility greatly benefits the gameplay. If bullet damage, vision cones, and turn-based combat were all heavily realistic, you'd either die straight away, be spotted a miles off, or get slapped by 8 thugs all at the same time, which, let's be honest, sounds a little bit shit. This is why games often implement systems like a enemy combat manager, so only so many enemies can attack at any given time. Ghosts of Tsushima has a similar system. Only a few melee and ranged enemies are allowed to give it their all at the same time, while other enemies snorted up on G Fuel act like this.
I'm gonna get you! I'm gonna get ya!
The purpose of gamified systems is to actually let the player play the game with some sense of understanding what the hell is going on. However, as with all gameplay systems, balance plays a huge role. Super passive enemies will look awkward, be boring, or feel pathetic, whereas too many enemies can feel unfair and frustrating. Determining the balance between realism and gameplay often depends on the kind of game you're trying to make. Are you making a simulation-style game like Squad? Or are you making Peggle? Based on that, realistic elements might need to be gamified to feel fun and fair. For example, Metal Gear Solid and the Camo Index. If it was realistic, crawling across the road 20 feet away would probably get you spotted. And probably run over. Unless it's a separate realistic difficulty setting, this sort of difficulty isn't as fun as giving the player some leeway to become the boss of top secret sneaking missions. Now, I know for the more realistic connoisseurs out there, this sort of thing doesn't really tickle your pickle. And I can understand that. I mean, at the end of the day, it is sort of a bit like,
what the hell is that?
oh, don't worry about it, Bill. It's just a rocket launcher with fucking legs. But Jack! You beckon from within my deepest, darkest nightmares.
Name one realistic game mechanic that negatively affects the gameplay.
How about Red Dead 2 when Arthur stores all his guns on his horse only to screw you over in a gunfight? How about Witcher 3 when Geralt, the Witcher, dies from tripping over a pebble? Far Cry 2 with gun jamming in the most inopportune times? Or where missions are restricted to specific times without or limited ways of progressing time? Or, in Kingdom Come Deliverance's case, NPCs completing missions without you because you were late to the game. However, just because a game has realistic mechanics doesn't mean it will fall victim to this problem. Again, it depends on the kind of game you're trying to make, but in some cases it's because The realistic games have applied some level of gamification to their game mechanics in order to balance it out evenly in the player's favour. For example, in Warzone, you have infinite parachutes that don't need resupplying. Ghosts of Tsushima has animals that lead you to secrets and a grappling hook that completely ignores the laws of physics. GTA doesn't always kill you after being flung from a car crash, and Minecraft has weird dirt. There are loads of games that embed themselves in realism that choose to gamify certain mechanics to accommodate fun gameplay. Let's not forget that realistic games with strictly realistic mechanics are important and can be extremely fun. The ARMA series is designed to be a realistic tactical army simulation game. That's its genre, and it achieves it very well regardless of whether you like it or not. The point here isn't that realism is bad or it should be omitted from games at all. That's not what I'm saying. The point is that games that feature both realistic and unrealistic game mechanics need to be flexible in their game design and with those mechanics themselves. In order to have both realistic and unrealistic game mechanics, there needs to be a balance, and sometimes having a balance means having to compromise, and that's just how game design goes. The Yakuza series, between beating up bad guys and overthrowing secret underground organisations, makes you fight strange men in diapers, record ridiculous revelations, and somehow curb stomp every thug and Yakuza boss without killing them. The kind of gameplay design for a game this colourful, wacky, and insanely wholesome isn't necessarily one based in reality. That doesn't mean it can't be, but that doesn't mean it'll work. But it also doesn't mean that it won't. Besides, they threw realism out the window when they made Kiryu. At the end of the day, adding realistic mechanics to a not so realistic game can be rewarding, as long as it matches the kind of game you're trying to make, and as long as it's fun. It can be done, and it has been done. It's all down to how you balance realism and gameplay. Special thanks to my patrons, and a big thank you to everyone for their support and amazing comments. You guys are truly incredible. Make sure to follow me over on Twitch, where I stream every weekend, and follow me on Patreon if you'd like. And also, don't forget to subscribe for all things games, games dev, and all things DarkDax. Now, if you excuse me, I'm off to go fight 20 thugs at the same time, alright? Just kidding, I'm not a fucking idiot.